Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. I'd like you to stay tuned to the end of this episode because last night I found out some information that blew me out of my chair, and it backs up one of the things that I told you I saw during the Akashic Records episode, and it involves the Mafia and JFK's assassination. So I'll be talking about that at the end. This video is going to be questions and answer 12. I decided that for once I want to get caught up so that after this episode we'll be all caught up with the Q and the A's. If you feel drawn to support Astral Club, you can do so. There will be a link in the description page to take you to Patreon, where you can become a member of Astral Club. When you do that, you get the videos early, usually on Tuesday or Wednesday, and you get direct email access, so you can send me questions or comments or what have you, and I see them directly. Okay, thanks. Let's get started. First is a kind of a question from me. How many people started seeing 1111 or a similar number scheme after we had the Finding an Astral Guide or Ally video? I know a number of people have. My daughter started seeing it on a regular basis. I started seeing it even more. It cropped up for my wife, and I've had a number of comments from other people said they've started seeing it, and I suspect that there's also, this is like a iceberg kind of thing. I've only seen so far the top of it. I'll bet you there's a lot of you out there who also started seeing 1111 or something like that and just haven't had a chance to comment or indicate that that it happened to you. But if you feel like it, you can always leave a comment and let me know that it started happening. If you recall, seeing 1111 is a spiritual wake-up call. It's saying that there's some spiritual energy out there, a guide or an ally, that is interested in your development, and that if you take some time to become acquainted in meditation or dreams, you might be able to assist one another in development. So the 1111 is just kind of it's a little reminder. It's a little tap on the back of your shoulder saying, hey, I'm here. You interested? So just keep that in mind. In that same video, Finding an Astral Guide or Ally, Nicholas Barry had this to say. He said, this helped me connect a lot of dots about my dreams and attempts to contact a spirit guide. So I'm glad that that helped you out, Nicholas. Venki N asked, one of my biggest issues seems to be breathing. I feel vibrations and all, but then I start almost suffocating. I try to breathe rhythmically, but I usually take a big breath, breaking it all. I have heard this before. Some of it has to do with some fear. If you can lie propped up, in other words, have a few pillows underneath you, or I'm lucky enough to have an adjustable bed, you'll find that it's a little bit easier to breathe sleeping and in this kind of a situation. However, if you can't sleep that way, one suggestion I gave Venki N was he could experiment with lucid dream astral projection. We've talked about that in the past. I've mentioned the lucid dreaming book by Dr. Stephen LaBerge. He's not into astral projection, but he talks a lot about lucid dreaming, and we've talked about how if you can start managing to lucid dream, you can figure out how to astral project, because you jump off a building, jump off a ledge, what have you, and with that feeling of falling, and then you say, I want to leave my body, you'll find yourself quite often astral projecting. Okay, Dyson Harris had this to say. This made me realize that I had been tested in my dreams many times. He's not the only one to make a comment like that. There was a number of others who did too. Now, Mo Sislak asked this. He had a dream that he was sitting on the floor listening to a guru while eating a chocolate bar. Now, this is a very interesting type of dream. This could be an actual astral class somewhere, or he's being set up, he's being tested. Anyway, the guru took the chocolate bar from him, took some himself, and then passed it around. And Mo felt that he failed the sharing test. And he felt the video was quite the coincidence because all this happened at the same time this video came out. Utku Guler. I'm sure I butchered that. Do these allies you talk of have other names? I feel like you are talking about a known entity but are trying to be cryptic. LOL. I don't intentionally try to be cryptic most of the time. That's what I call them. You could also call them extraterrestrial astral entities rather than just allies. But allies for me is a lot quicker to say than all of that. Okay. Kelamiti ask. Oh, great video. I was wondering if casting out the signal and communicating with your guides or allies can be done through meditation. Of course it can, most definitely. In any kind of state where you can be quiet and you can be very fixed in your mind without a lot of distractions allows a pure signal to get through. So most definitely you can use meditation as a way to contact a guide or ally. Plectrum Dust said, I got a testing dream after watching this video. I failed so hard. At least I'm now aware of my problem and I will work on it. And you're right, it really felt different compared to my usual dreams. And I was also tired when I woke up. Syrian asked, why do I have to take a test to have a relationship with guides or allies? Well, when you proceed in the physical from grade to grade in school, many times you're given a master test to see if you've learned the lessons necessary to be promoted to another grade. Guides, allies, they're very like teachers. They have to be sure that you're ready for their instruction by verifying if you've learned the required physical level lessons. It's just the way things are. And heck, we have a lot of tests, if you think about it, in this physical world of ours. If you want to drive a car, you have to pass a written test and you have to pass a driving test. If you want to get a professional license of some sort, you have to pass a test in order to get that. My daughter, who I believe I've mentioned here from time to time, Rose, went through all these years of school so she could qualify as a PA. But before she could actually get her license, she had to take this very, very difficult and involved test because the state that she was being licensed in wanted to make sure that she actually had absorbed the information necessary to practice in that state. So, sorry, it's the same way in the astral. It just is the way it is. John James asked me, have you heard of the Arantea book or Arantea papers? Yes, I have, John. If you haven't heard of it before, the Arantea book is a very interesting tome. I first read it when I was in high school. It was written sometime between 1924 and 1955, where it was published without an author. It is a spiritual, philosophical, religious book. It purports to have the origins of history and the destiny of humanity, and it answers questions about God and life in the inhabited universe, the history and future of this world, It also gets into Jesus' teachings, some of which don't appear in the Bible. Um, at any rate, the what he was referring to is in that book was they discussed a series of entities called the Midwayers, who numbered 1,111, by the way, and that they got permission to use that signal as a way of alerting people that they were interested in, and people that were interested in spiritually improving themselves and evolving. And these midwayers are apparently entities who are very much attached to this earth and the people on it. And they're much more willing to get involved than some of the higher entities who are more watchers than anything else. It's an interesting book. I can't say I agree with everything in it. And keep in mind that some of it is a little controversial nowadays because it's not politically correct in some areas. Keep in mind this was written before 1955, so they've got some racial theories that would be classed as a little bit controversial. So if that's something that would cause a problem, maybe you shouldn't read the book. At any rate, though, it is interesting. Slime asks, I was recently pulled out of my body by an entity that looked like my grandma, who passed a few years ago. I thought the deceased didn't stick around. Well, Slime, the once folks pass over, the soul's direction can vary quite a bit. Some will reincarnate immediately, others will take longer to learn their life lessons. They may have evolved to a certain state where they can assist others before reincarnation, or they can choose to dwell on the astral plane for a period of time before becoming promoted. So there's a wide variety of possibilities here. It could also have been a guide that took on the likeness of your grandma to make you feel comfortable. So it's kind of hard to know for sure. Scars, if entertainment, said or asked, is it possible to learn new skills using astral projection? And I have this question on a regular basis. It's a little difficult. See, we have our physical brain, and we learn things at what really is a fairly slow pace. Even when we think we're doing it fast, in actuality, by universal standards, it's very slow. But it's the way our brains are presently constructed. Perhaps in the future, we'll be augmented in some way so we can take in all this information and it can be accessed and learned and whatever. But right now, we've got this human flesh brain and it's fairly slow. It also has a very limited capacity. If your knowledge that you can actively process is kind of like the RAM, the random access memory of a computer, then the amount of information that you can store, that you can actively get your hands on, would be considered your hard drive. And like all computers, there's limited amounts of RAM and limited amounts of hard drive space. I recall once I was in a situation where I asked for, I wanted to understand the universe. And I thought it was a fairly general question, but I was taken literally. And an enormous amount of information became available to me. And for an instant while I was in the astral, I understood everything. And it all made sense. But then I returned to my body and it almost immediately slipped away. It was kind of like the Pacific Ocean being poured into a teacup. Very little stuck because it was too much for my physical brain to consciously comprehend. It couldn't hold it all. So it was gone very soon afterwards. Now, every now and again, I get intuition that is right on, that tells me what's going to happen in the future, or a few minutes from now to a few years from now. And so I think some of the information got buried back there somewhere, and At times it can leak out, but learning new skills is tough. You might be able to get the information on the astral, but then when you get back, you're just flooding your physical brain with so much more than it can handle. So it's just, by and large, it's just not possible. Okay, now in the astral journey to the alternate moonless Earth, which, if you recall, was the alternate plane that I visited that didn't have a moon. Now, anyone interested in the science behind this should read Photios, Miles Nuages, and also a comment by Alina in Chastagui, because she had studied marine biology, so she made a comment about that. But they also had great things to say. Real briefly, Photios mentioned that scientists think that Theia, which was this world, crashed into the proto-Earth about 4.5 million years ago, creating the moon. And since then, the moon has stabilized the orbital axis of the Earth, preventing wild orbital axis changes, which perhaps happened on that Earth, which is where I saw that 1,000-foot tidal wave, around 300 meters, I guess, these massive disasters that happened when the poles went to the equator. So it certainly does, it makes sense. Now, Miles Nuages mentioned that the Earth has a dense iron core that it got from that same collision, and that this dense iron core provides a powerful magnetic field around the Earth that protects us from assaults by the solar winds, which is why we get the aurora borealis. Essentially what you're seeing is these solar winds that are being deflected by our magnetic field. In other words, protecting us from the assault by the sun. Now, Mars, which was a smaller planet, its core, they believe, cooled many, many millions of years ago. And as such, it lost its magnetic field. And then over the millennia, the solar storms blew away what atmosphere Mars had. And then, of course, eventually it lost its surface water and got very cold. Alina, who had studied marine biology, said that the presence of the hydrothermal vents that I saw and the chemosynthetic organisms were fascinating. And the entire time, she said she was wondering if I would find tube worms in this world. And of course, I did. In the basic astral projection techniques video, Random Z thanked me for the tips and the meditation. He says it helps him to become more sensitive to the energies and vibrations. So you're certainly welcome, Random Z. ISSANN, also chimed in and say, I've been seeing 1111 and 111 every day for almost 2 years, sometimes 5 times a day. But now he knows what he has to do. Alina in Chastagui thanked me for the video, and she had a very interesting experience. She was walking along a beach that she frequents when she astral projects. She says tiny alligators bit her, and it hurt for the next 20 minutes. Is it common to feel pain on the astral? Well, first of all, pain. What is pain? In the physical, pain is basically your body's way of keeping track of where, what the current status is of your health and whether something needs to be addressed. It's a good self-defense mechanism. It helps you to stay healthy, except for when it's chronic, then it's a real pain. At any rate, when a stimulus is applied to your body, your skin, whatever, nerves carry those signals to the brain, and then the brain then interprets it. It interprets it as a pinprick. It interprets it as you getting an injection or vaccination, or it interprets it as somebody stabbing or shooting you. Now, when you're in the astral, your astral body does not have nerves. However, you do have a consciousness. You do remember everything you've experienced in the physical. So, if you believe you should experience pain, it is possible for you to feel that pain. but it is entirely self-created. I tell myself there is no pain in the astral, and there is no pain in the astral. It's just like if you ever watched a movie or a TV show, especially if you're a sensitive type of person, and you see somebody being tortured, or you see, them being gorily damaged and hearing them screaming. I don't know about you, but I can sometimes feel that pain if somebody's hitting them in a certain spot, or subjecting them to this types of abuse. And obviously nobody's hitting me, but I have the memory of pain in my mind. And so if I see someone and I'm identifying with them in that movie or TV, I can actually get a glimmer of that pain myself. So it's not real pain in the astral. It's something that you've conjured up for yourself. So tell yourself there is no pain, and there won't be. Sir Shrulu said that I've been seeing 1111 a lot, and I've even passed my test on loyalty. So he was happy about that. And finally, from question and answer number 11, which was last week, that's how we're getting caught up. Will you do a future live stream? Yes, I will. It's something I wanted to do for a while. I guess I was just waiting to get enough subscribers so that it would be an interesting program. I mean, I've done several live programs since then on Discord, on Astral Lounge. So there's no reason why we couldn't do one on YouTube. Victoria G recalls being stuck to power lines as a child. She says it wasn't pleasant. One of the questions I addressed was the nature of the astral body, how I believe there's a certain amount of electromagnetic energy associated with your astral body. And as such, it's possible to become temporarily stuck to these high tension power lines. And here's Victoria saying that really struck a chord with her. She has a very unpleasant memory of something like that happened to her when she was a child astral projecting. Robin asks, what is the lifespan of the astral body? Can astral parasites steal power from the living? Well, the lifespan of the astral body is a lot like the physical body. First of all, the physical body, as we know, is mortal. It exists for a period of years, and it can certainly vary. Usually we don't get much over 100 years, though. And then it dies, and then you move on. Now, your astral body is not you. Your astral body is another temporary energy body. It has a given lifespan. Now, much like the physical, that lifespan can vary, and a lot of it depends on where you are in your stage of spiritual development. Generally, though, I've found that typically the astral body won't exist much more than a couple hundred years isolated on the astral plane, and many folks a lot less than that. As far as the astral parasites, we've discussed those once. They're really, I hate to say it, but it's true, they're disgusting individuals who are beneath contempt, who exist on the astral longer because they steal the energy from other trusting astral spirits who haven't yet attained a certain level of spiritual attainment. So they're open and they're easy to steal from. And it's also possible that these types of entities could steal from alive people too, although generally they won't, because, and this is kind of weird, yes, I call them disgusting individuals because they're like leeches, but in order to do this on the astral, you have to be developed to a certain degree, just in a negative sense. And for them to steal from physical people, they'd have to lower themselves to the lowest level of the astral to gain access to these people, which would be very uncomfortable for them. It's also kind of like a rich person. A rich person can drink wine. Now, they usually like to drink the very expensive wine because that's what they have a taste for. I suppose if you lock them away somewhere and you say you have to drink this cheap bottle of wine, they would, but they wouldn't enjoy it and they wouldn't certainly do it willingly. So that's kind of the difference. The spirits on the astral plane are the nice wine. Trying to take from physical humans, that's the cheap wine. Now, there are very low entities who are trapped in the lower levels of the astral plane who will leech off energy. And we've discussed this before from places like drug dens or bars, sex clubs. But this is just energy that's there for the picking. It's like energy that's cast off, poorly insulated against. It's just kind of flowing all over the place. You don't have to have any kind of development in order to grab it. So it's a much lower level sort of entity than what I was talking about here. Okay, the announcement that I wanted to mention that knocked me out of my chair last night. I watched videos by Michael Franzese. He was a captain, very high ranking in the mafia. I believe the Colombo family. At any rate, throughout his time as a mafia captain, he heard the big guys talking about the JFK assassination, and he mentioned a number of bosses who claimed that they took care of Kennedy. The idea was they got Kennedy the presidency by doing some shady deals in Chicago. And in return, they were supposed to get access to the White House. Now, not only did Joe Kennedy, who was the father of JFK, screw them over on that access idea, but then JFK's brother, Robert Kennedy, went after the mafia. So they felt extremely betrayed. And that's not a good thing to do, especially back in the early 60s with the mafia when they were at the pinnacle of their power. So the word amongst the top mafia people was that a number of mafia dons colluded to assassinate Kennedy. But what really blew me away is one of the three that Michael Franzese mentioned was Carlos Marcello. If you recall, that was the name that I got in the Akashic Records episode when I investigated the JFK assassination. So it just blew me away. I'm going to leave a link in the description to the Michael Franzese video, and I'll leave the time frame where he starts talking about that. Of course, you can watch the whole video if you want, but if all you want to see is that, I'll leave you that timestamp. But that just blew me away when he mentioned that Carlos Marcello guy as one of the key figures in the assassination plot to kill John F. Kennedy. Okay, well, that's the video for this week. We're all caught up now. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already, and please continue to give me your questions and comments. They're great. And as always, I'm Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.